Jane. We're going to turn it over to Sister Beth Davies now.
You just simply want me to tell you how I got into this area. Is that it? Is that the question?
Yeah, how'd you get involved with CCA and what's
Okay.
it meant for your life?
Yeah.
How has Appalachia impacted your life?
Okay. I always say people ask me how I got to Appalachia, and I always say my students led me here. And the reason I say that is I was an administrator of a diocesan high school, and the person who was the assistant administrator, Ron Bianchi, had been at Fairfield University and had taken many students to the Appalachian region and immersed them in the area because he wanted them to see other parts of our country that they never came in touch with. And through him, for the students in the senior year, these were very bright kids, most of them, and they drove us crazy in the second half of their senior year. So we started a senior studies project, and one of the projects, they wrote it up themselves. They spent time with families in Appalachia through the Glen Mary priests and Glen Mary home missioners, and through that experience, I got to know a bit then through them about the Appalachian region. And then really, when I first was in the mountains, the first time I came here, I knew I was going to come back. There was a connection right away. And I think my connection comes from my roots. I come from Ireland and Scotland, all my family. And they always told me, even as a little child, I always wanted to be in the mountains, no matter where I was. It's a little tot. All I wanted to do was go to the mountains. So I know when I came here, and so that I came back, and Les Schmidt was very, very kind in the beginning to come and introduce himself, tell us about the place and so forth. And I came and landed up in where the little place I'm in now, St. Charles, which is a coal mining camp, which is practically not there anymore. It's almost like a ghost town. But anyway, so that was my experience there. And then through Les, I went to my first CCA meeting in 1972. And I believe we were in Knoxville, if I remember correctly. We were a handful of people. You know, you could count on, well, less than two hands, the number of people who were at that meeting. And that was my first introduction into the Catholic Committee of Appalachia. And of course, we know what's happened over the years. But that was really my introduction and the beginnings of the seed that began to grow into something that we know today, and that seed has really grown and is still growing. Could I make a comment there? When we're talking about the title of the pastoral letter, there was a time early on that the upper region in the Pittsburgh area and that area were very, very active with CCA, very much so, and we were up in a place outside of Pittsburgh at one of the priests there who had a mission, who had a parish there. And we was talking about this pastoral. We were talking about different things. And John Barry, who was with us, you mentioned John Barry, who was the executive director of CCA initially. And then we were just trying to think about what will we call this document. We had the document, but we didn't have a name for it. And I can remember John Barry saying, you know, this group down in Eastern Tennessee, that was Maureen Linneman's group, he said they had a song, "This Land is Home to Me." And he said, wouldn't that be a wonderful title for this pastoral? I mean, you can see all the connections, you know, how connected things were. Here we're up in Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh at Portview, and he brought that up and he said, this land is, because they were trying to think of a title. what would be homey, what would be good, and that's where it came out of. So I was thinking as we're talking, all these connections in different areas, and that came out of the northern region when we were up there in the Pittsburgh area, which is just amazing. What I wanted to say, I picked up today, it just came in the mail to me, and part of it was, you all know Mount Tabor there, and the Sisters of the Dwelling Place Monastery there. And it was interesting when I picked it up, it just fit in with what we were doing here. But they were saying they're spending much more time now alone at the monastery because they always had groups coming in and that would stay at the monastery, and they'd have different groups throughout the year. And of course now they can't do that with COVID. So they're there with much time to reflect and to really look at themselves and their future. And they said as they were looking at their being there, they said it started back in 1975 when Sister Judy Yunker read the Appalachian Bishop's Pastoral letter, "This land is home to me." And the letter asked for prayer centers to be established so ministers working in the mountains would have a place to come for renewal and relaxation. And so she and I came, and this was Eileen with her, and the Dwelling Place Prayer Center was established, eventually becoming the Dwelling Place Monastery. But you can see out of the pastoral and then the call, and then Judy Yunker becoming acquainted with it, and then right away. So I just picked that up yesterday, it came in the mail, and I thought how fitting it is in some of what we're doing right now, all of that, how things grow and connect and what becomes out of, the writing of these pastorals. But anyway, I just wanted to share that.